Hey folks, Jeff here at Back to Country. Well, the sun is out and the storm has passed. We've been cooped up for last couple days. Final tally, 7.5 inches of rain in about 30 hours. That's crazy. That's a lot of rain come down quick, and unfortunately with a lot of rain we get a lot of damage. You know, if it just rained a lot it wouldn't be a problem, but when it's all, you get, you know, the gully washers that come down, that does do a lot of damage, and that's unfortunate. So on our road project, we unfortunately took 3 steps forward. We got a couple of good solid days in, 2 lifts, and we started on our 3rd lift, and then we ran into our 2 steps back. And the first step back was we lost the water pump on the dump truck, so that's a project now. And then we got hit by this storm, and this storm, like I say, it hit us hard. So let me show you some of the damage that we got. So here's a big one. This, you know, you can see all over here where water basically runs from everywhere, and it kind of gathered up here, and then it just gains speed and momentum and just wipes out everything, you know. So this is all erosion where the river that was flowing through here just, you know, knocked everything out. This was a small crevice before. It didn't stretch this far, and it definitely wasn't this wide. So that's all dirt that just washed down the hill, you know. So that's a project right there now to fill that back in, and so it can happen again, basically. And we got some other spots along the side here that same thing. You can see where the water flowed and came on, you know. So this is tough. This is real tough. Bottom line, like I say, man, I'm here by myself. There's only so much one person can do, and it's a little bit disheartening when you're working on a project and you can't even get the project done before disaster strikes, and it just sets you back, you know. So what do? You just keep pushing forward, and you got no choice but to get it done. But man, like I say, it sure is frustrating. So we got all this erosion and everything, you know, and like I say before, when it's time versus money and all you got is time, this is just the way it goes. You get it done, but you can't get it done fast enough to beat the rain, and there just ain't enough methods and ideas to get around this, you know. It just happens, and you, I don't know, there ain't nothing I can do about it but just keep on going. So anyway, we got all that. Now I do have a long-term plan to fix all this, so let me kind of show you what that long-term plan is, so at least you know that I ain't just some country boy hick that's gonna keep on doing the same damn thing over with the same results again. I know that I'm going to keep having these results until I get to the end of this, but like I say, I'm one dude. I don't have the 6 figures it would require to bring in a crew to do all this the right way. So I got to do it myself to get to the right way, and doing it myself with, you know, one person, plus I don't have any experience in all this, you know, so I'm figuring it out as I go, which makes it even longer, and probably doing YouTube makes it even longer than that, but it's all good. So let me show you what the long-term plan is. So here's an acquisition I made a few days ago, a week ago, I don't know, on Facebook Marketplace. These are some concrete storm basins. They're basically boxes that are storm drains, and you put culverts on them to run your water. So I got lucky and found these things brand new, and I didn't pay very much for them. So unfortunately only one of them has a grate. Now this grate's like 100 pounds by itself. It's cast iron. So I've got to build you know, covers for 3 of them, and I'll figure that out. I mean, I'll either use some real heavy plate steel and cut holes in it, or I will you know, maybe get lucky. Sometimes when I go to the scrap yard I find grates. I've never bought any of them, but I've seen them there, you know, different types of grates that could be cut and used, or shoot, you never know when you get really lucky and find the exact thing you're looking for. So we'll just have to wait and see what God has in store for us, and we'll figure it out. But anyway, these boxes, they're brand new. They ain't never been used before. They were just sitting on somebody's property, and they was from a previous owner, and they just wanted to get rid of them, so they sold them. And they sold them, you know, cheap. I mean, I'll tell you, I paid $60 each for them, so to me that's more than fair. Anyway, so the way they work, you stand them up, put them in the ground, and you cut out this hole and put you a piece of culvert in there and run that culvert out wherever you want the water to go. So those are 24-inch holes. I don't know that I'll use 24-inch culvert. I can cut them to any size, so I may just use like a 18-inch culvert. But you know, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But the basic plan is to put a few of them along this side here, and of course we'll reshape the terrain so that the water runs into them. And then instead of having the water running over the edge and causes erosion, it'll run into those boxes and then go out through the culvert through the side, and it won't cause any erosion at all. So that's our plan. Of course, you know, once this is all surfaced and everything, we're gonna put rock and everything over it, so that's gonna help too. Right now it's just dirt, and dirt's your worst thing when it comes to erosion. It ain't gonna hold up against the water. I mean, you can see here where this rock, when it's tight, it actually holds up a little bit. Now some of this here, you can see it's kind of loose, and when it's loose, in between it, you see that rock will wash the dirt right out between it. So you got to get that stuff packed tight, and then preferably put another smaller rock on top of it even. So we hadn't got to that point. Remember, this was a temporary road, so we got a long way to go to get there. Anyway, here's another piece of erosion that not as bad as that other one, but you can see we got some washout along there. And just down this side, which this has been the side that's been giving us trouble all along, but we never had a plan to build this side way out. So we've been putting our effort into building the actual part of the road that we want to build, and then we'll come over here and do whatever we got to do to fix it up, and hopefully put in, you know, ditches and cross ditches and all that. I mean, I got a lot of different ideas of how to do it. The main thing is controlling water flow and reducing the amount of flow so that it doesn't cause this much erosion. Even here you can see how the rocks weren't packed tight enough, and yeah, the dirt just washes all out around them. You know, and that's my fault. I was the one that put that rock down, but like I say, I put it down as temporary, and I was in a hurry, and the plan was just to get them trucks in here, and we did that. So, but now I'm getting tired of fixing this dang road all the time, so it's time to build it and do it right. So when I was working on this the other day, I had a bunch of wash here, and we got 1.75 inches rain last storm, and I had a little bit of erosion over on this side, so I built this mound of dirt here. I just pushed some dirt up with the dozer to try to catch some of this runoff from the top and divert it around where I'm doing my work. And this actually worked pretty good, and man, it knocked out some erosion over here too. So you can see here we had some rocks and stuff stacked in here to try to prevent this. Well, them rocks was clear up at the top of this, not down deep like that. So I mean, the water was such a raging river that it washed out underneath the rocks and just dropped them down, you know. I mean, we got a lot of rain, and a lot of it came fast. The first 3 inches probably came in like an hour. I mean, it was bad. And then after that, the next 4.5 inches, you know, came over the next 20 or so hours. So is what it is. But you can see, I mean, it washed out all through here. Them weeds kind of covered it up some, but then it went down and around and down the side, which is what I wanted it to do. So if you look from up here, you know, it doesn't look too terribly bad. You can see some erosion, but you know, not enough that you're like, oh man. But as you go down and look at the bottom end, it gets worse, because that's what happens. The water might be a little bit at the top, but as it joins together with more and more water and gains force as it rolls downhill, it just becomes more destructive. So here, of course, this area catches water from up top, and it runs all down here, and you can see some different paths of the water and how it just eroded out and was washing this. But even this, like I say, it ain't that bad. That's real minor stuff that one pass with the bulldozer would pretty much clean that up, not a problem. But as you get into here, it starts to gain momentum, and it just got worse and worse and worse as like I say, the water continued to gather more water, join together, running from different sources and coming together, and then it just gains force. And since it's on a downhill slope, it gains momentum with that, which equals more force or energy and more damage. And so you can see here, this wash was already here, but it came out a little more. And you know, that water came down and joined with this other water, and it just continued to get more and more destructive. And it did all this damage through here. And then when it got down here to the bottom, there was another path that was going along the side there. You can see that damage, and then you can see how it joined up together with this other one and continued with force and momentum. And I mean, it washed down all the way to the bottom of our lifts. And it just came, and now you got this big area of silt, sand, whatever you want to call it. It's washing the sand out of the clay, and that stuff's lighter, so it just flows everywhere. And of course, when you walk on it, you sink. I mean, it's not, that silt is the worst. It's definitely not good for road base. So now once it dries up and everything, you can scrape it and maybe do something with it, I don't know. But now this area here, I mean, this is a good 4 feet wide, and it was solid built in. I mean, that was all dirt that we had put in there. Every bit of that washed out. So, you know, that's probably a good yard of dirt there that just washed out. And you can see up along the side where the silt has settled and everything up there. Now that's not as much damage. Mainly it's just this right here, but it is what it is, I guess. Long term, you know, maybe we need to put a culvert in here, fill all this in and everything, and then put a culvert that runs across the road, put some pitch to it so that it carries that water from this side of the road over to the other side of the road. And that's really what we want to happen with all the water. We need it to come over here into the woods and flow downhill. Because once you get into the woods, then all the ground is held together by the trees and their roots, you know, as well as grasses and different whatever growth in there, you know. But it holds that together so that water can flow through there, and it really doesn't cause any significant damage. And if it does, it usually flows into like a small ravine or whatever, you know, where the elevation drops, and it'll concentrate there, and then it'll carve out a ditch, and then that'll be your flow forever, you know. It'll make a ditch and do it itself. So that's what we want it to do. Man, you can see all this silt that just ran off. So that wasn't at all what we had planned when we started this project. Unfortunately, we couldn't make it, you know, through the project far enough to start taking, I guess, procedures or whatever, making steps to mitigate the erosion. So, you know, we pay the consequences there. Yeah, very frustrating because we've been dealing with this for a while, but you know, what do you do? Now we got this other section of the road down below. We'll see what happened to it. I suspect it's pretty good, and I'll be able to show you the difference of where we did something better. Now I can already feel the difference walking through here because there's not as much silt. I mean, sure, there's sand and stuff that you see on the road here, but it's solid. It's not, you know, it's not deep. It's just little surface sand that's washed off the hill or whatever. And then there you can start getting down here into some, where there's some rock and everything mixed in it. Now we've got these ruts coming across the road that where the water runs down, and eventually I'll fix this section of road here. The plan is to put ditches and everything on both sides of the road, and if we need to do a culvert or something to move the water across the road, then that's what we'll do, and that'll take care of that. But for now we got some small ditches, but it just makes the road a little bumpy. It ain't no big deal at this point. It's the least of my worries. In here you can see same thing. A little bit of erosion through here, but nothing bad. And then we get down to where we actually worked on the road, and you know, you can see some erosion there, but again, it's barely anything. And then we get to the actual road, and when we first started this road, now we had the exact same problems that we're having up there. We had erosion every time it rained. It'd get bad until we got this rock down. And when we put this rock down, you can see it's packed tight. And this is actually just one layer of rock, but it's packed in tight enough. And then we drove the compactor over it and everything, and it crushed more of that rock to make little pieces that filled in. And of course, sand and whatnot has run across the top of it, and that fills it in even more. And so this road is holding up really well. Now we can see where water flows out of the sides of it that causes some erosion along the side, and eventually I'd probably like to smooth this out a little bit and extend this rock more so that it's wider. And we let the water run to the side, and it's creating a natural ditch. And you can see that natural ditch is, you know, sort of deep, but it gets down to a hard base. That ain't bedrock, it's just a clay base. But it's enough that the water can run over it and it really doesn't erode. And so that's what we want. That was the plan, is to kind of see if we could do it in more of a natural way than having to come in and spend a bunch of money, you know, to do it. Now eventually we've thought about maybe dumping rock and stuff in here so that you know, it'll make it like a arroyo, creek bed, whatever you want to call it, that, you know, a dry creek. It only has water when it rains, but it'll definitely stop that erosion or reduce it. But this road, man, it holds up great. And this is just crushed concrete, which is like the cheapest solution there is. All right, well, that camera just overheated and shut down. My plan was to build the road out like this, and then come in and put more rock over the top of it, a smaller rock, you know, like you'd find on a normal gravel road. And then of course come in with the grader and smooth it all out, and you'd have a nice road when you were done. Now we smoothed this with the grader and everything, but unfortunately, even smoothing it out and having it looking great with the grader, by the time we got all the rock work done, it had rained and everything and tore this road up again. So it ain't all perfectly smooth and level, but I was hoping that we could fill that in with rock on a top layer and we'd be all good. Regardless, it doesn't really matter because the road's holding up, and that's my number one concern. I mean, you could drive over this with a sports car and it would go. It might be a little bit bumpy like a cobblestone road, but once we get gravel and everything on top of it, I think that'll smooth out. Right now it's just because that rock base is all you got. But like I say, when it comes to erosion, that rock is doing a great job and it's holding up well. So hopefully we get to the point that my road up there, I do the same thing and we get it tight enough that the rock holds up. And then we put another layer of rock over the top of that. Now we'll do that before we ever mess with this road again, because this road is holding up just fine. So I ain't even gonna mess with this until I've got that section up there tight and I'm not having issues with it, because I gotta prioritize, and right now the priority is fixing those issues. So you can see here there's still some water in this ditch, and you can see where this ditch is widened out down here, but it's widened out a lot down here because I did work down here. I actually you know, dug this out and cleared dirt out of here. So that was to get the initial ditch, and then we just kind of let nature take its course from there. But I want to be able to cross this ditch, drive across it, and I eventually like to fix the old road and make that usable. So in order to do that, I need to put a culvert eventually across here and then cover it up, and that'll take care of where that water flows. And of course here you can see you get a bunch of water flow off the hill that comes down and flows down into the same ditch on this end, and of course then it all flows out into there, and there's a creek down there and it flows into the creek. So I mean, this is a example of what we did that worked, and it took us, I think, years to get this done, because I mean we kept a lot of trial and error, just kind of learning. I didn't really want to do ditches on both sides of the road, because that high spot where I put the rock is what was holding up before. The rest of it was really washing out bad, and so I really wanted that high spot to be the road surface, and I would have had to shift it over several feet this way to put another ditch on the other side of it. Of course, I got all them trees and everything along there, and I was afraid if I cut any more into that hillside, or yeah, basically cutting that cut ledge, if I cut it more, I was gonna start killing roots and everything and lose all those trees, and I didn't really want to do that, because that kind of provides some protection and a visible break between the main road and our property. So right now, I mean, the only entrance is this gate right here, and so in order to maintain some level of privacy, you know, you gotta kind of keep them trees and everything along there. So we also put down this rock out here, and it's held up well, and we had quite a ditch that was starting to form out here where water runs all the way down the road and in this ditch, and it was coming here and digging a deeper ditch. So we put a bunch of rock in here, and now it's holding up just fine. It just runs, the water runs basically right over the top of it. It's not a problem, and it works its way down to that creek. So now I had built the road kind of over this way so that people could come in and make that sharp turn up there in the big trucks. But you can see we're not driving on that enough because the weeds is coming in strong. But eventually I think I'm gonna need to get some more trucks up there for rock, if nothing else, to bring me some big loads of gravel. and we'll have to do some more work on that, because I'd like to come in here with a belly dump rig and just come right on up this road and dump that gravel, and then we'll smooth it out and call this road good. But like I say, this is not at all a priority until we get that upper section done. So as far as roads concerned, that upper section has to be the priority, because that's where my biggest problem is. And you know, we'll call that the danger zone, because with them shoulders washing out and everything, if they wash out anymore, that road will be too narrow to even drive on. You know, right now we've probably got, I don't know, at least a foot on each side, so we probably got about a 10-foot wide road right now. But we need to get that cleaned up and fixed, and so best way to do that is to build the new section of road on the side like we're trying to do. So that's the priority. It's gonna be a while, and there's more rain in the forecast, so oh man, now I gotta let it dry up before I can do anything. And I still got to get the dump truck fixed. So I just got word from the auto parts store that my parts is in. So got to make a trip to town, pick up auto parts, pick up some tools. Having some trouble getting the fan clutch off of the water pump so we can get the thing apart. So stick with us for videos on that. Anyway, that's where we're at. Appreciate y'all watching. Appreciate you sticking with us, supporting our channel. It's always good to have support out there, especially when you're dealing with all this frustration. So keep them comments coming. Appreciate the support. Until we cross paths again, take care. God bless. We'll see you on the next one.